Welcome. Trekking Kokoda can be a very rewarding experience. However, it is important that you are properly prepared and get good advice. This video contains 3 main sections. Section 1, medical, Section 2, equipment, and Section 3, physical preparation. It is important to see your GP before trekking so that you cover all of the necessary preparation required for visiting PNG. Dr. Andrew Keyworth, GP and keen trekker, offers this advice.
So it's important to consult your general practitioner before you go trekking somewhere like the Kokoda Trail, and that's because there are lots of things you need to prepare and organise before you go to make sure that you remain healthy and fit on your trek. First thing I'd really making sure you do is think about preparing yourself physically for the trek. The trek's very arduous and you have to be fit and strong and healthy if you're going to actually have an enjoyable time and make it to the end. So look at the recommendations of whoever's supervising the trek and make sure you get yourself physically up to speed before you go. The other thing you should do is actually prepare yourself mentally for a trekking experience like the Kokoda Trail, and by that I mean you need to be informed about what you're actually putting yourself in or getting yourself into. So do some research, look at where the trail actually goes, the sort of terrain you're going to be travelling through, read other people's experiences online, do a little bit of research about it, and so that you've got some idea of where you're going and what you're actually getting yourself into. From a more specific medical point of view, there are a few sort of areas that you need to look at before you travel to Papua New Guinea. One is preventing illness, doing as much as you can to prevent any illnesses that you may get that you may be exposed to while you're there. So prevention really involves looking at your immunisation status and making sure that you are vaccinated completely before you go for basic things like tetanus, diphtheria, whooping cough, the common flu injection. You should have the flu injection before you go that covers you for bird flu and swine flu before you go. You should make sure you have hepatitis vaccinations for both hepatitis A and hepatitis B. Most people in Australia these days are vaccinated against hepatitis B routinely, but hepatitis A is spread by food and water, and we don't have much of it in Australia, but there's lots of it in places like Papua New Guinea, so you need to be vaccinated before you go. Typhoid's important. It's a diarrheal disease that's spread through water and food, and it does occur in Papua New Guinea, so you should be vaccinated against that. Possibly even Japanese encephalitis, which is a disease of the brain that you can get and can be very dangerous. Cholera, you should be vaccinated against cholera as well. It's an oral vaccine. Again, it's a diarrhea disease. It's not a good thing to get. But talk these 3 things through with your GP and look at what you've already been vaccinated against. You might have been vaccinated against some of these things already. If you've done some previous travelling, you might not need to be re-immunised, but double check it all with your GP.
Check your immunisation records with your GP. Preventative measures should be considered for malaria, cholera, hepatitis A and B, tetanus, diphtheria, swine flu, bird flu, common flu, and Japanese encephalitis.
The other really important part of prevention is to make sure that you have good equipment and trekking gear with you so that you don't run into problems with bad boots or bad socks causing blisters or ankle injuries. Also make sure you have a good backpack that isn't going to strain your back and cause you back problems. problems, stuff like thinking about sun protection. All that is really part of thinking about preventing problems and keeping well while you're trekking. The other thing you can do from a medical point of view is to prevent illness on the Kokoda Trail, which is really important, is take regular medications to prevent illnesses that you can't be vaccinated against. Now, the most significant one of these in Papua New Guinea is malaria, and everybody who goes on the Kokoda Trail needs to be taking some prophylactic antibiotics to prevent them getting malaria as they do the trail. Again, there are a variety of anti-malarial tablets that you can take, and you need to discuss which one suits you with your GP. The most common one used is doxycycline that you take each day, and it's generally well tolerated. So that's from a medical point of view, that would be the only regular medication that you'd be taking while you were trekking to prevent yourself getting an illness as you're travelling. But preventing illness, the other big problem that people run into on the Kokoda Trail is dehydration because of the humidity and the level of exercise you're doing. So you need to be making sure that you stay well hydrated, having an adequate supply of sterilised water to consume on the trek. So you're going to need at least 2 litres a day, probably more, of sterile water to actually keep you well hydrated and fit on the trip. The other thing from a medical point of view is thinking about avoiding picking up infections. The other huge problem with trekking in the New Guinea highlands is gastroenteritis from waterborne disease. So you need to make sure that you only drink sterile water. Any cooking equipment and things is washed with sterile water. That you have antiseptic hand gel or soap to use regularly, during the day. Use it every time before you eat, after you've been to the toilet. And using the other thing, to decrease your risk of getting malaria is to use a good insect repellent and protect yourself. Cover your arms and your legs in the evening so that you're less likely to get bitten by mosquitoes. Some trekking companies will supply mosquito nets. If you're not actually sleeping in a tent, you've actually got to be careful and sensible about minimising your exposure to malaria.
Remember to include sun protection lotion, anti-malarial tablets, water purification tablets, antiseptic hand gel, and insect repellent.
Lastly, you need to think about, well, if I do get sick on the trek, what am I going to do? So you need to be carrying some antibiotics and other medications to actually use if you need them. Hopefully you won't need them. A successful trek is one where you bring home your first aid kit unopened, or you give it away to the local people when you finish at the end of the trek, and you haven't needed to use it. But you do need to carry some medication, so you should have some painkillers, some analgesics. I'd be carrying paracetamol to use for treating headache, fever, maybe some Nurofen as well. Nurofen is good for treating inflammation. If you've got a sore joint, sore knee, twist your ankle, Nurofen's probably better than paracetamol to be carrying for that. I'd be carrying some anti-diarrhea tablets in case you do get diarrhea, and I'd be carrying 2 sorts. One, you actually carry something like some gastrostop to actually stop you having diarrhea, but I'd also be carrying some antibiotics to actually try to kill any bacteria that's causing a problem with your gut. Best to discuss with your GP what sort of antibiotics would be most appropriate for you to carry, and because you need that, your personal medical history needs to be considered in that decision. Stronger pain relief, maybe, in case something terrible happens and you get a really bad sprained ankle, or you fall and break your arm, you might need something stronger than paracetamol Nurofen or ibuprofen. And again, talk to your GP about that. They might prescribe something like some Panadine Forte for you to take as well, which contains codeine. Antihistamines are a good idea to carry in case you develop an allergic reaction to something you come into contact on the trek. It can be an insect bite, it could be a plant, could be dusts or moulds or animals. You know, antihistamines are a good idea to carry. And you know, I'd be taking maybe some antibiotic or antifungal creams as well, in case you get a wound that's infected or you know, prone to infection. You also need to be carrying an adequate supply of dressings, so you know, waterproof or you know, partially waterproof dressings. You need to be carrying a crate bandage in case you want to bandage something. Really just got to get yourself organise yourself a good little first aid kit.
Remember to include antibiotics, paracetamol, Nurofen, anti-diarrhea tablets, antihistamine, antifungal cream, waterproof dressings, and crepe bandages. When choosing gear, make sure you get advice from experts. Karen Ellis has had many years in the adventure business and will take us through some important advice.
Okay, so for a correct fitting boot, you should have plenty of toe room up in the forefoot area. You shouldn't have any awareness of your toes at the end of the boot. The boot should fit nice and snugly across the foot, and we want to minimise any heel movement. So the best thing to do is if you come in and get measured up and correctly fitted, that way we can ensure that you've got a really great fit. Okay, so some common mistakes that people make when they get their first pair of boots is some people get them too small, so not allowing enough room in the forefoot. That's a problem for when you're walking downhill. You don't want to be crashing into the end of the boot. They're quite hard in the toe, and the idea is that gives you protection, so if you do kick a rock or the like. That can actually work against you if your boot's too small. So you should have about a thumb sort of width up front. Having said that, another mistake that is commonly made is people get their boots too big. They're aware of the need for the toe room and sort of overcompensate and get a boot that's too big. The problem with that is that you go too big, you're not going to be adequately held in the midfoot, and so what's actually going to happen, you're going to slide forward anyway when you're walking downhill and hit the end. The other issue with the boot that's too big is you get excessive heel movement, and that can lead to blisters on the trail. So an indication of how to determine a good fit, slide your foot forward so you just touch the end. If you can get a finger down behind your Achilles, generally speaking, that means that when your heel's kicked back into the heel cup of the boot, you should have about a thumb sort of width up front, and usually that's plenty. That should be a pretty good length. Okay, the quality of your gear in general, whether it be footwear or your clothing, is really, really important. The last thing you want is to be halfway through your 10-day hike and have your boots go to pieces. It's a long walk in bare feet. And also with the rest of your clothing and equipment, comfort is everything. So, you know, if you're not comfortable, you don't have the right gear, you're not comfortable, you're not going to have a good time, and in some environments it's actually potentially quite dangerous to have inadequate gear. So quality is really, really important. Okay, so in addition to having your good set of boots for the walk, it's a great idea to have a set of adventure sandals. Come in really useful for if you need to do any creek crossings. You can take the boots off, keep the boots dry, and pop these on for your creek crossing. Now, a good sandal will be nice and secure on the foot. You don't, thongs or Crocs or those shoes of that sort of style aren't appropriate at all. They can come off and end up washing downstream, and they'll never break down, so there's certainly an environmental concern there as well. Not to mention you'll be in bare feet for your next crossing. So a sandal like this one here, it's actually got plenty of toe protection, so that's useful when you're doing a creek crossing. They're a quick dry material, so they'll dry quickly, and they're great for the end of the day. There's nothing like getting out of your boots and popping these on for when you're around camp. Okay, socks are a really important piece of equipment. To get the best performance out of your boot, it's really important that you put the right type of sock in there. So a good sock is going to be made from a material that's going to wick away perspiration. It's really important we get the moisture away from your foot, otherwise your skin will get soft and susceptible to blisters. So a good walking sock will have plenty of padding in the base of the sock. The good technical ones will have good ribbing around the middle, so it stops the sock twisting on the foot, and they're a little bit thinner on top, so it's not going to overfill your boot in that hot sort of environment. There's whether to go thick or thin, that's a real personal preference sort of thing. Obviously cushioning is really important. Some people like to go for a thinner pair such as this, and then you can put a liner sock inside, and having that extra layer of sock that cuts down on friction, and also you get an extra couple of days out of your main pair of socks. Okay, so walking poles are a great piece of equipment to take. The theory is with the walking poles, obviously you're going to have extra points of contact on the ground, so you're going to be a lot more sure-footed, a lot more stable. They actually help you when you're walking uphill because you can engage your upper body, and coming downhill it helps avoid quad burn, and saves a lot of work on the knees when you're walking downhill. So this is an example of a nice compact trekking pole. The great thing with these, I definitely recommend if you're going for a pair of poles rather than a single pole. One's better than none, two's a lot better. We're largely symmetrical, and it's just an extension of your natural walking motion. And the great thing with a good compact trekking pole is that obviously in Kokoda there's going to be times when you can only use one because of space restrictions. Well, nice and easily stowed in the pack. But you'll have two for those times when you are walking downhill for a period of time. You'll really feel a lot better at the end of the day, a lot less fatigued. So, poles such as this, they clip together, they assemble really quickly, and really make life a lot more comfortable on the trail. Okay, another really important piece of equipment is your pack. There's generally two different ways that people approach trekking Kokoda. Some people elect to carry all their own gear, in which case you'll need a larger pack such as this. And some people elect to use the services of a porter, and so you'll carry a day pack such as this one here. So for the people who want to carry everything, what to look for in a pack, obviously the fit is absolutely everything. So it's really important that you come into a shop like this and get fitted up. Pretty much the size of the pack that you can go for is pretty much determined by your harness size. So generally speaking, larger people will have a larger volume pack, and smaller people will have a smaller pack, just by virtue of everything being scaled up or down. So what's really important with a pack is that we can carry the bulk of the weight down on the hips. It's really easy to carry the load down on the hips. It's really quite tiring if you've got all the weight up on your shoulders. So it's really important that you get correctly fitted, and we can perfectly match the length of your torso and the back length of the harness. Okay, so regardless of what your pack's made out of, whether it be canvas, which is a really water resistant fabric, or a textured nylon, a great additional piece of equipment to have is a pack liner. This is an example of one here. The idea is that basically you drop this inside your pack, you load all your gear, so all your clothing, sleeping gear, anything that you want to make sure is going to stay dry, and drop that into your pack, and basically it's a roll top bag. So once that's all sealed up, there's no way that the contents of this bag is going to get wet. So obviously in an environment such as Kokoda, hydration is really important. So there's many ways you can sort of handle the hydration scenario. A really common way of going, a great way of going, is the hydration bladder. So with this is actually a 3-litre reservoir which can slide inside your pack. It sort of sits down the back of the pack. Many of the day packs and many larger packs will actually have a sleeve where that slides into. Then obviously you have this hose that runs out over your shoulder, and a mouthpiece which clips onto your shoulder strap at the front of the pack. The great thing is you've got water on tap, so as you're walking along you can just continually keep sipping, making sure that you're not getting into a situation where you do get dehydrated. Because if you're just using bottles in your pack, the bottles are behind you. The only time you tend to drink then is when you stop. You've got to take your pack off, get your bottle out, drink, put it away.
It's a good idea to keep your Gatorade in your water bottle and your 3 litres of sterile water in your bladder.
Okay, your choice of clothing is another really important consideration for your trip to Kokoda. Clothing that we'd recommend is going to be lightweight, really nice and breathable, and most importantly, really quick dry. Materials such as, or trousers such as this one, great way of going. These are actually a convertible pant. So the idea is that during the day it's hot, you can zip the legs off. They have a zip down the bottom, so basically you can get them on and off without the legs on and off without taking your boots off. But they double as a pair of trousers and a pair of shorts. They're a breathable synthetic. A lot of people freak out when we talk synthetics, but what you'll find is that they're very lightweight, they are breathable, and they're really quick dry. We tend to stay away from cotton because cotton will get wet and basically just won't dry over in that environment. So it's heavy and uncomfortable. So we use those sort of fibres in the trousers and also in shirts. So long sleeves are really important. Obviously there's a sun protection element, but obviously it's, mosquitoes certainly a factor to bear in mind. So during dusk and dawn, really important to cover up and keep the muzzies off. The good trekking shirts will be able to roll the sleeves up. They'll have tabs, so good short sleeve option during the day, and then you've got your long sleeves for at night. In terms of protection from mosquitoes, you find some of the clothing will actually come with anti-mosquito treatments. This shirt does. But you can actually treat any of your clothing with a product called Bug Guard, or it's a permethrin treatment. You soak your clothing in it, and that'll actually repel the mozzies as well. So you've got the physical barrier plus the repellent in the clothing. Really useful thing to do before you head over.
Training for Kokoda is very important and can also be a lot of fun. Peter Junkovic is an experienced trainer and has trekked Kokoda. Both stretching and strength exercises for Kokoda are included.
The best advice I can offer when preparing for the Kokoda Trail during training is to make sure that you start at an appropriate level of fitness for you. Once you've identified the appropriate level of fitness, you can then give yourself enough time to best prepare for the trail. The idea is just to gradually progress each week on what you've started at, making sure that you're including lots of hill work, both going down and going up. You have to try and adapt your training to what you're expecting to walk on when you're on the trail. Therefore, you should be using the right equipment that you're going to be using on the trail in terms of clothing, footwear, and using your trekking bag to add weight to your training sessions. Progressing on the training is very, very important. It's important that as you become fitter, you then start to challenge yourself more each week. That might be a gradual increase in terms of weight that you carry when you're training, the length of time that you're training for, and how often you're training from week to week. When trying to get through the trail, it is very important that your nutrition and hydration is very good. Due to the fact that you'll be burning lots of energy whilst on the trail, nutrition is highly important. This means that you should be eating small snacks regularly whilst on the trail. Every time you have a break with your group, it's probably a great opportunity to have a snack and have something to eat to replenish that energy that you'll be burning. Foods that I would recommend during this snack time would be trail mixes, energy bars, lollies, fruits, anything with a high sugar content that can be digested quickly and keep providing you with energy. In terms of hydration, due to the fact that you'll be working in a hot, humid climate, you'll be sweating regularly, which means that you're losing lots of fluids. Therefore, you must be consistently drinking water and also replacing that salt by using hydrolyte solutions which contain electrolytes. It's very important though not to drink too much of water or too much of the hydration solutions as well. Drinking too much water can lead to problems, so therefore it's important that you find the balance between the two.
Exercise associated with hyponatremia is caused by excessively drinking water beyond thirst. It is very important not to overhydrate and to only drink when thirsty.
To make sure that you actually enjoy the Kokoda Trail experience, my advice would be to actually learn some history about the trail, the reasons for why Australians fought on the trail, and also to learn some culture about the PNG people and the villages that you'll be coming across whilst on the trail before you actually go. When actually on the trail, it's important to recognise the fact that the trail is not a fitness test. The trail is an opportunity for you to enjoy the experience of what the trail can offer from both a historical and cultural point of view.
Strength building exercises should be included with your walking program. Include squats, lunges, calf raises, push-ups and crunches. Try to start with sets of 10 each, and then increase as your fitness level improves. When doing squats, keep your back straight and bend your knees at a 45-degree angle. Ensure that you keep your legs parallel when doing dynamic lunges. When doing wide stance squats, ensure that you plant your feet wider than your shoulders. Keep your legs shoulder width apart when doing calf raises. When doing jump up, then push up, start with a jump, then followed by a push up. When doing triceps, make sure that your arms are shoulder width apart. Biceps should be done with your hands extended out further than shoulder width. When doing oblique crunches, make sure you join your elbow to your hip. Aim to touch your elbow to your thigh when doing straight crunches. Stretching is important to help avoid injury. Include stretches such as calf muscle, hamstring, groin, quadricep, hip flexor, gluteal, shoulder and neck stretches whenever possible. Calf stretches should be done with a planted foot. It is best to hold your hamstring stretch for 20 seconds for each leg. Keep your back and legs straight when doing a groin stretch. When doing a quadricep stretch, pull your ankle up carefully until you can feel the stretch. When doing a hip flexor stretch, keep your legs parallel and lean to the side until you can feel tension. The gluteal stretch should be done whilst you are positioned on your back. Shoulder stretches should be done by placing one arm behind your head. It can also be done by pulling one arm in front of your body. Neck stretches should be done by tilting your head to each side. Your top to bottom morning routine should start off by rotating your neck, followed by your shoulders, to your arms, to your back, followed by your waist, and to your legs. A simple step test can be used to measure your fitness progress. Count the number of step-ups you can complete in 1 minute. Repeat 1 step up and 1 step down, alternating legs. Climb every first step up and then back down again. Climb every second step up and down. Repeat the climbing action of 2 steps up and 1 step down. Alternate step climbing between 1, 2, and 3 steps. While stepping every 2 steps, use your arms for assistance whilst climbing. Run up every step. Run up every 3 steps and then down every 2. Most trekkers are encouraged to use a porter. This will make it easier for you, and it will also contribute a little more to the trekking industry. You will also make great friends and learn a little bit more about their culture. PNG is a beautiful country. Let's look after this pristine environment. Take your rubbish with you, and when walking, stay on the tracks and try not to damage plants. Remember, trekking Kokoda can be a very rewarding experience. I hope you are well prepared and enjoy your trek.